my name is Marty. I use they, them pronouns, and I'm going to teach you how to make a basic tomato sauce. The first thing you want to do, if you did not guess by me holding the onion and waving the knife around, is that we are going to chop up one whole onion. So I recorded a video a couple weeks ago about how to do this, so I'm going to go through kind of quick, but you're going to cut your onion in half so that you've got the knob on the end. I already cut off the end of mine, but you want to do that as well. Then you're just going to go down and make those cuts so that you're still leaving the end connected like that. And again, I'm going to move quicker than I did when I recorded it before. And if you recall, when I was making that video too, I said that I was making it to caramelize it, so I left it in strips. I'm actually going to dice it this time, so I'm going to go down and make those little chunks. And yeah, sometimes it might start to slide a little, and then you're just going to adjust your angle. You always want to keep your fingers out of the way. That is the most important thing, is to keep you safe. And that is good. I'm going to pop those into my pot. I'm going to do the same thing with my other half of the onion as well. So again, just doing those strips straight down, leaving the end connected still. Ooh, now it's starting to get me in the eyes a little bit.
Why are you crying, Marty?
Well, I'm so glad you asked. You know, there's so many reasons. You know, they discontinued Dunkaroos. They closed the beaches.
Is it not the onion?
It's not the onion. Mark Mancini never apologized to me for hitting me with his bike in 4th grade. So many reasons. I don't know where you are, Mark Mancini, but I hope you can live with yourself and what you've done. Yeah, I'm struggling a little bit to cut it, and that's fine. I'm gonna go from that angle instead. Ooh. So yeah, the best thing with onions is to just keep moving, because I am tearing up quite a bit. You know, we have plenty of onion that's even probably enough. Alright. Gonna pop all that into my pot as well. And this should go without saying at this point, but I already washed my hands. You should wash yours too before you start cooking. Alright, 1 medium onion. Then I'm going to take garlic. This is just peeled garlic. It's actually from Massachusetts. It's my freezer garlic. But I'm going to take, listen. So garlic's a subjective thing in Italian cooking. Most recipes will tell you to use like 2 or 3 cloves of garlic. I'm going to use 4. So I'm going to take 4 cloves of garlic and I'm going to mince that up. And the way that I'm going to do that is I'm just going to cut down some straight lines across, and then I'm going to go that way. So kind of similar to with the onion, how we did like long lines and then short lines from the long lines. Got it like that. And do the same thing to the other ones as well. Because these are frozen, a little chilly, but you can start frozen, you can start fresh. I didn't buy these frozen. I brought them fresh and then I froze them later. Fun fact, my favorite grocery store in Massachusetts, Market Basket, sells peeled garlic by the pound. So I got a massive thing of it when I was home a while ago for like $2. And I've been working my way through it in the freezer ever since. Alright, so adding that to my pot as well. And then what I'm going to do is while the next few steps are going on, I'm going to add some olive oil to my pot. I'm going to add about like 3 or 4 tablespoons worth. So we're just going to try and like kind of cover up the oil and the garlic and the onion as much as we can, but it doesn't have to be perfect. The trouble with sharing Italian recipes is that a lot of them are just kind of like, that feels right, that tastes fine, but there's not a lot of like specific measurements when it comes towards like making sauces and stuff like that. But you just kind of get a feel for it. So we're going to do that on like medium heat. We're going to let that start to roast. In the meantime, that's the wrong thing. In the meantime, we're going to open up our tomatoes. You can start from fresh whole tomatoes. I can do a video about how to prepare those another time. I'm going to use tomato puree today because it's what I have. So tomato puree is basically tomatoes that have already been ground up. So even like along with like pomodoro, this is going to be a little thinner than pomodoro would usually be. But yeah, so like that's tomatoes that have already been like completely blended together as well. That they may have included a little bit of water in it too. So we're going to set that to the side for now. We're going to let these cook just a little bit. So we're going to wait for that to start to sizzle for a minute. In the meantime, I'm going to clean this up just a smidge. Alright, so our onion and our garlic are just starting to brown up. As they're cooking, you want to kind of push anything that's on the sides down so that they don't burn. Normally I would use probably a little bit of a bigger pot than this, but hey Levy, this will work. If you're afraid of getting burned or if you're afraid of that tomato splashing up though, a deeper pot would probably be a safer bet. Alright, yeah, awesome. So those are just starting to brown up. So the next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add my tomato puree. And tomatoes come in like all kind of forms in cans. There's crushed tomatoes, whole tomatoes, tomato puree, If it's anything that's like thicker than tomato puree, you're probably going to want to blend it afterwards. I'm going to see how the onions cook down, how soft they get, if I want to blend this one or not. But I'm going to take my tomato puree and carefully, because it is going to splash a little and sizzle, I'm going to pour it right in. And I'm actually going to turn the heat down to low too. So I want this to really take its time. The goal with making tomato sauces is not to make one super quickly, it's to make one well. So I'm going to stir that in. So you can see like that olive oil is kind of sitting on top. I want to incorporate that as much as I can because it is going to cook off more as this starts to heat through. You can see those chunks of onion and garlic in there as well. And if you don't like garlic and you don't like onion, you don't have to include them. They just add a really, really nice flavor to it. And I'm not sure if I said it before, so in case I didn't, I used a yellow onion. Again, when we were talking about onions, we talked about the different colors and the different kind of flavors. This was a yellow onion. Alright, so I'm going to let that sit. I'm actually going to turn it a little up, so like between medium and low. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add a little bit of seasoning. We're going to keep this like super basic. We're going to keep it relatively traditional. So I'm going to do about a teaspoon of salt. So I'm just going to measure a teaspoon of salt and I'm going to sprinkle that throughout it. And that's going to be plenty for that amount of sauce. That is going to be plenty. You can even do it a little lower if you want to. The next thing I'm going to add is I'm going to add a tablespoon of basil leaves. If you're using fresh basil, you can use like 3 or 4 fresh leaves, but you're going to want to chop them up first. And then as well with that, you're probably going to be more likely, there we go. You're probably going to be more likely to want to blend it at the end if you have those whole leaves in there. Sauce is full of surprises. Alright, so that is the sauce's way of telling me to keep the heat low instead. Alright, so yeah, again, if you're doing whole basil leaves, you are probably going to want to blend it after just to incorporate them. But I'm going to do about a tablespoon of dried basil. And we'll see how that's going. And then last but not least, I'm gonna do like 2 teaspoons. I'm gonna do like 2 teaspoons of white sugar, granulated sugar. And that's gonna kind of round out the flavor with the herbs and the tomatoes as well, because tomatoes can be so acidic and so sharp that it really helps to have that little bit of sweetness in there to counteract that and balance it out. Wow, I have really made a mess of this stove. That is all right. That is why we have rags. But yeah, awesome. So I'm gonna want that get all together, and you can see the steam coming off of it too as more of the oil and the water and the tomatoes is starting to boil off just a little bit. So we're gonna let that just kind of come to a simmer. We don't want those big bubbles like we got before, but we're gonna let that come to just a little bit of a simmer. If you want to, if you want to protect your stovetop, you can put a lid on it. I sometimes cover it, I sometimes don't. With this one, I'm not going to, because if I put the lid on it, it's going to cook much quicker, kind of to the detriment of the sauce as well. But it's really up to you. Sauce is fun because it is pretty much exactly what you want it to be. That you can, if you want it to be like more on the sweet side, you can put a little more sugar in. If you want to incorporate different herbs, if you want to play with flavor palettes, you can put oregano, you can put rosemary, thyme, you can put, you know, extra garlic, you can put less onion, you can put garlic powder on top of the fresh garlic as well. That, you know, basic ingredients in Italian sauces are like tomatoes, salt, and sugar, and then going from there, whatever you really want it to taste like. That, ooh, my cat's acting a fool in the background, sorry. Yes, that is already heating through pretty well. I'm gonna keep hand on the pot. You do want to stir it as it's cooking. You don't want to leave it for too long, especially if it is going to be, you know, at a higher temperature like that, because the oil can start to separate out pretty quickly. If you want like a thinner sauce too, like if you want something more in like the marinara category, you can add water, which will A, make it cook a little quicker, and B, it won't be that like thick consistency. I like thicker sauces. I like stuff that's like more in the pomodoro family than the marinara family, but it's all up to what you like. Yeah, so I'm gonna give that like just another minute because it's pretty hot already. I don't know if you can tell on camera, but it is like bubbling under that like top layer. There we go. Alright, so before we go any further, I'm actually going to turn the heat off and I'm going to give it a taste. Because one of the most important things to do when you're cooking like anything pretty much, but especially sauces, is to taste what you're making. That, you know, it's easy to say like, oh, I put this much salt in, I put this much basil in, but you're not really going to know if you like it until you try it. So I'm going to grab a spoon. You give me 1 second. Alright, so I grabbed a couple spoons actually, because if it's not how I want it the first time, I'm going to add some more things, and I'm going to be sharing the sauce with my housemates, so I don't want to be like double dipping on tomato sauce, because that's weird. But I'm going to give it a little taste. I'm going to stir it so I really get like kind of the whole thing, not just whatever pooled in that area. But this is pretty hot too. Tastes hot. Could use a little more salt actually, which surprises me. But, and that's why it's so important to taste everything too, is that you may think you know, I'm gonna even do a little more than that. So I just added probably like another 3/4 of a teaspoon-ish of salt. You may think you know what you like. You may think you know it's gonna taste good before you even put it in your mouth, and you may be surprised. Give that a try. Yeah, again, using a different spoon because I love my housemates very much. I don't know if they are willing to share tomato sauce with me in this time of a pandemic. Yeah, that's better. Awesome. So that is pretty darn good. And again, the tomatoes cook down pretty well in this, so I'm not going to blend it today, but if I did want it to be like a little more even, if I want it to be more like a Pomodoro family of being that thick, even consistency, I would. But yeah, pretty good. Got a good balance of salty, sweet. You got your garlic in there. You got your kind of undertones of onion. You got a little bit of basil as well, and that is how you make a basic tomato sauce.